Da horen molwen san bonani dumelangto bela abshni krinches molalapo. Goedemiddag, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 2 of the Dmitri Jegels show. This should actually be a little jingle or something. Interestingly enough, I found my old jingle from 1983. You know that one? It's Jaggy Baby, that one. So we're going to see if we can sort of play it in and maybe add a little modern twist to it. But first of all, let me say thank you very much to all those of you who actually watched episode 1 and for all the good wishes that I got from you. I was wondering maybe I'll get one or two negative comments, but there weren't any. So that's heartening. But, we can deal with any critique as well. We want to improve, so please don't pull the punches, or don't worry too much about my feelings. In all my years as a DJ, I learned very early on that not everybody loves you. But thanks for all the love, all the same. I would like to say thank you to Xolela for being the first one to comment, and also to my family members. I had quite a few of my cousins, to mention a few of them. I think it was Esmeralda and Fazlin. Thanks for your warm comments. And my nephew, Gendre, my only sister's only son, only child actually. And he's also in the showbiz. I think he's what is he, Dakota?
Oh yeah, Genre is he's an editor. Yeah,
an editor,
a TV editor.
Yeah, he was initially at ETV, and then he moved.
I think he's back there now.
Is he back there now? Okay, so all power to you too, Gendre. And the other person in my family who's sort of in this game is my son Dakota. My last born is the one who sort of got a feel for this line of work. And then Grant Bowles, from my dad's side, he's grandson of who's he grandson of now? Got to take my glasses off to read. So I don't think I've met your ma, Grant. So, but give the family all my love, eh? And then I'd also like to say thank you to Fluffy and to Nandi for your good wishes. And Nandi mentions that 2:30 date was her favorite. She was at primary school, and they would rush home to listen to 2:30 date. That's a story I hear a lot. I also got thank you from Julian Jansen, and Sharifa mentioned she said a blue Langley. No, Sharifa, as I responded in the comments, I did say it's actually a red Nissan Exa, and that one was sponsored. It was my first sponsored vehicle. I think it was my only sponsored vehicle, but in those days I was very, very popular. And the company called Rates Nissan, I don't know if they still exist. I don't see them. They used to be in Goodwood. And in those days, that's before the casino at Grand West was built. It's long before then. They used to do hell driving at Goodwood Showgrounds. That's the site where you now have the Grand West Casino. And there was a massive hell driving event happening. And I was asked to come and take delivery of the vehicle at that event. I think we even had some of our colleagues, some of us participated in the hell driving that evening. So I'm not a great driver at all. In fact, I'm not good at just about any sport except running. I represented my school at running, middle distances, although I'm more of a long distance runner because of my days I spent in the Karoo. So that when I got to Livingston High School, I think I must show you a little pic of the class of 75. Yes. Where I stand next to Mr. Dudley. What a giant that man was. He was a stalwart of the New Unity movement at the time. I remember that President Mandela wanted him to be in the first cabinet, in the first democratically elected government of South Africa, but he declined. He wasn't happy with the continuing of. Okay, let's not digress, but I'm sort of going off on a tangent here with that one. Anyway, show you a pic of that. However, I was very good at running. Oh, I also represented my class at my school at volleyball. That was one of the only ball games I was good at, or team games. However, I was UCT light welter boxing champion from 1978 to 1980, I think, somewhere there. Yes, so that's the only sport I'm any good at. In fact, I was very good at that one. Well, now I'm a heavyweight, eh? Anyway, so I didn't do too well at the hill driving. However, during the break, they brought out this Nissan Ixa, this sleek red vehicle. I think it was a 2-door, and it had those slanting headlights, like Kit in, I forget, Knight Rider, yes. So I remember my eldest son used to love it when I flipped the lights on and off. He was little then at the time. So anyway, it was a red Nissan Ixa, and the legend Dmitri Jegels, sponsored by Rates Nissan, something to that effect, was on either side of the vehicle. The downside of that was that I always had to make sure that I behaved myself when driving the vehicle, because it was so recognizable. I couldn't get away with driving badly.
What do you mean downside? So the downside was that you had to drive responsibly and safely.
Okay, this one, he's the most responsible driver that I've come across. I mean, when you come to a stop street, you've got to stop. And it's a problem we have in this neighborhood where we live, where people actually they treat the stop street like a yield sign. But remember, I was young then. I was in my 20s, 20-something, mid-20s. And you want to speed and you want to take chances. Now I couldn't, because, I had to behave. But I was quite honored to have this vehicle. Okay, so that was a bit of a memory flashback there. Then another comment that I got was from my colleagues, from Mr. Nombula and Dr. Worku. I know that soon we'll be saying Dr. Nombula. Hey, Makabongwe. So I am so proud of you. Once again, I want to say this on this public platform. At CPUT, the vast majority of our students come from highly impoverished backgrounds and have English as maybe the third or fourth language, in the hierarchy of competency. But now, when they come to the university, they need to. English is the medium of instruction. It's the language of assessment. It's the language of teaching, and now they have to, in this foreign language, master concepts at the highest level, and they need to complete assignments and assessments in this foreign language. English is actually a foreign language to the vast majority of South African citizens, of Africans in actual fact. So he was a first-year student. I think it was 2015, and he was in my class. Was Makabongwe, and then I saw him again in his third year, where he was now a senior student. So in the first year, I was assisting students to come to terms with the requirements of the academy when it comes to academic writing and so forth, structure. But they just sort of got an introduction to the structure of formal academic essay writing and also research report writing. Also, obviously, proposals. But and then to do presentations, because you need to be able to present your findings. You can be excellent at the work that you do, at the scientific research that you do, but if you can't explain your findings to lay people, then how's that going to get you anywhere? And in the marketplace, you need to be able to convince people whose discipline is not necessarily whatever your discipline is. For instance, you need to convince the Minister of Health that you need so many hospital beds or so many vaccines, as we saw very recently during COVID. Or you need to convince the Minister of Police that these are the resources you need. You need so many feet on the beat. You need so many response vehicles, and so on. So you need to be able to make an argument, and unfortunately, you need to be able to make it often in South Africa in English, which is the majority language, which is just a bit of jargon, meaning it's the language with the greatest power. It's not the language spoken by the majority of people, no, not by a long shot. It's the fifth most spoken language in South Africa, not the most spoken language. Well, in terms of what people refer to as mother tongue. So, Afrikaans has got even more speakers than English. I just thought I'd throw that in there. So, Makabongwe, then in the third year, he was in my class again, and this time I was dealing with final year students who had to now be able to put together a research report. So I did research methodology with them, and they also needed to be able to, at the end of the year, stand in front of a panel of academics and captains of industry and present their findings. And some students, on the strength of that, would get placements in the workplace, or get offers to carry on studying, which I think is what happened to Makabongwe. And a few years ago, to my absolute delight, he was introduced in our staff meeting as our new permanently employed junior lecturer in the Department of Mathematics and Physics in the Faculty of Applied Sciences at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. And I was beaming with pride. I'm still so proud of you. And what a motivation! What a motivation! Many of our students are first generation students at tertiary institutions, and that's because of our history, and also because of economics. So the fact that we now have funding for students who come from families who earn less than 350,000 rands a year, these students are no longer held back and not being able to study, to do tertiary studies because of finance. That's no longer the case. Please do your homework on that. If you think it's money that's keeping you back, if you've got the ability, you certainly do have the brains. If you've got the ability to do this, and your marks are showing it, there's nothing stopping you from carrying on with your studies if this is what you would like to do. So congratulations once again, Mr. Nombula, and I look forward to calling you Dr. Nombula soon. Dr. Warku, that is my colleague, he's the physicist. He's from Ethiopia, and we had many wonderful chats. He was sitting in the same little area as I was. We shared a little. Our office was in the same little corridor, and we often had coffee together. Remember coffee? That's another story, eh? the ritual around coffee. I experienced it in Ethiopia when I was at the University of Ababa, and one of the colleagues took us around to a restaurant and they explained to us. But of course, I got an even richer introduction to it from Dr. Worku, and also about the wonderful history of the Christian faith in Ethiopia. That's quite something. That's quite something to have had the privilege of listening to. So we've had some lovely times. I miss those times, but you carrying on. You please carry on doing the great work that you do with our students. And Mr. Nombula wanted to hear more about what I was doing during my years at CPUT, besides teaching. So that's something for another episode, I suppose. Then it's at Carnival, is it? At Carnival Worldwide. That's your handle. He commented, I think, at Carnival Worldwide, had a comment about my little anecdote about arriving early and discovering there were certain colleagues who were, who had clocked in, and then on company time were reading the newspaper and drinking coffee and smoking. And then I saw, oh, hang on, this is how it works around here. Not working, but clocked in, and then leaving early because you've clocked in. So remember, this was deep apartheid. This is 1981 when I started at that company in Pinelands at the headquarters. And I had dropped out of university end of 1980, and then very soon got a job. It's sort of a semi-legal job that I got, drafting policies and fund rules, and being able to, and I needed to draft this in English and in Afrikaans. And then amendments, I needed to be able to make amendments and also translate between the two official languages. Remember, only those two languages were official languages in South Africa at the time. And so I was employed. I was very excited about it. And as I said, this was in the heart of apartheid, and there were things they called petty apartheid, where they segregated restrooms and they segregated benches in parks. If you were allowed to enter a park, you couldn't sit on a whites only bench. You had to sit on one for what they would say non-whites. So you were seen in terms of a non-person. You're not. Those subtle ways in which language was used. So language is not neutral. Language can be used to vilify, to dehumanize, to denigrate. It can also be used to build you up, to motivate, but language, it's an amazing tool of propaganda, and it was used very, very powerfully by the apartheid government, that even today, it hurts me when people refer to their language, that one that comes from your mother's bosom, what people refer to fondly as mother tongue, my moedertaal. And they would say, for instance, here in Cape Town, people would refer to their version of Afrikaans as Kombuis Afrikaans, literally translated, kitchen Afrikaans. So what are you actually saying? You're saying that this language that you speak is not good enough for any other place but the kitchen. It's not good enough for any other domain. You can't speak this language in court. You can't speak this language on radio. You can't speak this language. You can't have it printed in the newspapers. You can't have it in the classroom. And so you feel inferior. Or it's made to make you feel inferior. And what actually is happening is you're internalizing this inferiority complex. I don't think it's happening consciously, but this is what's happening in the back. So I always would have a go at my students when they say their version of Afrikaans is good. I said, no. Standard Afrikaans only got that status because people with power at the time gave it that status and made sure that the textbooks get written in that language and that the laws get drawn up in that variety, that version of the language. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent again. I'm very passionate about language, linguistics. I am a linguist, and it's been my tool in all my working life. Language has been my tool. From my first job, when I was drafting, I was doing it using language. And so, actually, in every human endeavor, you're going to use language. What I'm saying is be proud of your CARPS. Be proud of it. And I really need to get Professor Quentin Williams to come and chat around this table because they are talking about, and I'm very looking forward to being part of such a project where they are busy working on a dictionary, a trilingual dictionary in it's Afrikaans, standard Afrikaans, I would imagine, and CARPS and English. And they are working towards CARPS being recognized as a language in its own right. And what this would mean is that you would end up having to have your school textbooks now drawn up in CARPS. So I found when I was doing my master's studies, I found that people, like we are all aware of the fact that people like to, who have Afrikaans in the home. The parents speak Afrikaans to one another, but they speak English to the children. And they send often what happens is they send their children to English medium schools. So my master's thesis was dealing with the acquisition of literacy by preschool children in a township. And that township, that was my research site, was Mannenberg. Mannenberg is very close to my heart for many different reasons. And that's part of the reason why our first venue was called Mannenberg's Jazz Cafe, because of the work of Dollar Brand, who later on became Abdullah Ibrahim. And that seminal, wow, that piece, Mannenberg Revisited, became like a second national anthem to us during the 70s and 80s and onwards. And it's traveled the world, that song. So I think I've now digressed so far from what I was actually wanting to say to at Carnival worldwide. So I'm at the Old Mutual, and it's apartheid, and they've got this petty apartheid where you have to go to. So during apartheid, we were divided, segregated, carved up arbitrarily into different race groups. Now it's indefensible in science. You cannot bring to me any human being that doesn't belong to the human race. We all belong to this one. We're all members of this one human race. There's only one human race. You cannot show me any difference physiologically between different human beings. They might have a different hue of skin or tone or texture of hair or accent or language, but those are all cultural differences and superficial differences. But we all have the same DNA. And all the different strands of science have been, the more they looked for difference, they found that, we have the very same heritage. And where do we come from? This wonderful continent of Africa. And anyway, so you've got these 4 race groups, artificial race groups that they just invented out of nothing. You talk about fiat currency. Well, they just said, only God can do this. Let there be light and there's light. Let there be a person and there's a person. But not human beings. Let there be suddenly so many different race groups. Nonsense. There's still only one race group. And then you have to find ways of trying to figure out what makes this one race this and that one race that. Then you come up with ridiculous tests like this. The pencil test. Stick a pencil in the hair. If it falls out, then you're white. If it doesn't fall out, then you're some other race group. Yeah, that's a ridiculous test like that. Now, of course, that falls out of some people's hair, but they're still not classified white. Then they need to find another way of figuring out, now, what will we classify this person? Anyway, so you had those 4 major branches then that they had. Then they had, but there was this one, so it was white, colored, Indian and black, right at the bottom of the rungs. Eh? But with this colored one, they had to have also Cape colored and other colored and something. So please, don't ask me for the logic. There is no logic. So we had these toilets, and I was not going to go and run up and down stairs to go to a toilet that is now designated for whatever race group they now assigned to me. I said to them, listen, my productivity is going to go literally down the drain if I must run up and down. I'm going to use this toilet. They said, no, it's okay, Mr. Jegels, because you wear a tie. I thought, my goodness. Cognitive dissonance really gets to people, eh? You see, my grasp of the law was better than my colleagues, I think. Maybe because I freshly came from university. Look, it was not the law department, but certainly my grasp of English and Afrikaans was at their level or better. And, my Latin, they couldn't touch my Latin. Not that we wrote in Latin at all, but I'd just come fresh from varsity and done a course in Latin. So anyway, they weren't going to get me to go to some other loo. I had to use the one on our floor. So I found that strange. And then also, the canteen was reserved only for office workers who wore ties. I think they were having some problems now because basically the laborers couldn't sit in the canteen in the restaurant. They could come and buy their food, but then they had to go and sit somewhere. Couldn't eat there. And I didn't like this at all. So I went and bought my food. Then I insisted on going downstairs and sitting with my colleagues in the there was a workshop where they worked on people's vehicles, and I liked sitting with them. And also they played indoloiki drafts. So most of the colleagues there were Xhosa speaking, and so I enjoyed chatting to them, although my Xhosa was not so good at the time. Very just a smattering. It's improved since. But then again, my colleagues had a problem. Oops. Why are you sitting with them? You need to sit with us. It reminds me of when I was at the SABC. And so remember, I was this very popular radio announcer, and I was asked to present, to act as master of ceremonies at many, many events. And there was this one event where they were opening the new National Hotel in Paro. They had refurbished it and they were now opening it. And they asked me to be the master of ceremonies. But now it's the new National Hotel. The ruling party at the time was the National Party, the one that was pushing this whole apartheid ideology. And I couldn't understand why they wanted me to be the MC. So I said to them, "Julle weet mos ek is swart, né? You know I'm black." And they said to me, "Maar jy's nie soos hulle nie. You're not like them." So I was being exceptionalized while being black. And yes, that is something I experienced all the time during my working life during apartheid. I think I'll leave those two stories there. I've got, obviously, it's a lot more one can talk about and how one had to navigate those apartheid laws while on the airwaves. So yes, I thought I'd just give that one to you at Carnival Worldwide. And then there was Beverly. Was it Beverly Erasmus? So what I asked was, are you okay with this podcast? Would you like me to carry on? Is there anything you'd like me to include? Any guest you'd like me to include? And so I did mention what Uncle Bongwe said. Then also from Beverly Erasmus, please have Mark Lottering on the show and the boys from the Joe Barber Show. Yeah, certainly. I've got some stories about them anyway. I think that's a great idea, but of course I have to invite them and they have to accept. So let's hope they do accept, and maybe even have a cooking show in between. Now, I'm not too sure if that's. I wouldn't like to insult those great chefs whom I've met over the years. Although COVID has forced me to learn how to cook. And now that I've got more time on my hands, and so my wife's full-time in the ministry, so she's not home at home during the day, so somebody needs to cook, so I do quite a bit of the cooking now. But I think I'd rather prefer getting a friend of mine who's a chef to come in and give me some advice on my kitchen, which I think needs to be improved. I'm not too sure how to do the workflow in that kitchen. And maybe I can just, try and impress him with a dish, and he can cook an inspirational meal for us, and we all win. What do you think? I think I want to leave it at that now. Thank you as well to Mr. Gary Kinnis for your personal message to me. It's one of my friends who sent me a private message. Didn't put a comment, but please, put a comment on the so that the YouTube algorithm can get hold of it. You know that algorithm thing they talk about all the time, and like and subscribe and tell other people about it. Yes, that'll help a lot. But I've had fun, although. I had a bit of I have to say that showbiz is not just music and lights. There's a downside to it as well, and I can talk about that again. And over the years, I've really struggled with it because you end up not belonging only to your family. So there is quite a downside to it as well. And it came back like a bang, that realization, after I did the last episode. But that's a story for another day. So please let me know what you think. Let us know what you thought of this episode. Comment. It's really important that I get to see what it is that you actually think. Am I on the right track? Am I emphasizing too much? For instance, am I going off on a tangent too much? Are the stories about apartheid getting to you? Should I sort of calm down on that, or is there something that you'd like me to really elaborate on? But I won't know unless you tell me. So please let us know, so that together we can grow the channel and hopefully have many more episodes. Thank you.